Hey, Dragon Dreamers. Gina Virginia Casella here, and welcome to Story Species, Story Medicine, Extra Strength. When we share our stories, we give and receive medicine. One of the best ways to heal is with the earth. And that's exactly what we do with each other right here on Story Species, Story Medicine, Extra Strength. Ready to take your medicine? Hi, Dragon Dreamers. Gina Virginia Casella here, and welcome to Story Species, Story Medicine. I have a wonderful guest with me today, Laura Ferguson. There's too much to say about her. I have a little introduction, and something that we're going to do for the first time on Story Species, Story Medicine is get to some channeling. We're going to talk a little bit about Laura's book. We're going to show you a little bit about her music, and then, of course, dive into channeling. So if you have questions, plug them in the chat. We will get to them. And I know I have a tendency of slipping into timelessness, right? So we're going to be watching the clock extra today because Laura's time with us is limited. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. Laura Ferguson, MBA. She's a master of all trades, really. She has a master's degree. She's a wife, a mother, and an Air Force veteran. Under her musician's name, Starseed Lø Lø, she writes and sings EDM, Latin alternative, and hip hop music. And you know what? I was having a lot of fun the last few days, actually, listening to Laura's music, Starseed Lø Lø, excuse me, her music name, and just doing my dance warm up, feeling sexy. Really liking the energy. So let us know in the comments too how you're digging the vibe. She also screenwrites the Starseed Voice podcast, which focuses on ASMR sound healing. She also channels bi-weekly on Michael Kopp's The Energy That Surrounds Us, and bi-weekly on Thursdays with Jennifer Taylor in the UK. April 29th, which is actually tomorrow, Laura's Bookfest press release is coming out. Laura Ferguson has won 2 honorable mentions with the Entanglement, Planet X, and Mars. That's what we're going to be looking at today. This award comes from the Bookfest Award Spring 2026. And today we're going to chat about her book, sneak in a little bit of channeling. And I'm really looking forward to today. I'm always telling everybody, we all have different ways of expressing our medicine, whether it's through music or art, and Laura seems to be checking off the list for everything. Before I bring Laura to the stage, I want to highlight her book right here. I'll show you a bigger picture. There we are, The Entanglement. I really enjoyed listening to it. It's about an hour and a half audio. Laura has a really nice, relaxing reader's voice. This is something that you can listen to like I did from beginning, middle, end. If you wanted to listen to it bit by bit, and I just have so many positive things to say about it. I took notes as usual, and you know me, Dragon Dreamers, full of questions. But without further ado, before I bring Laura to the stage, I wanted to highlight Starseed Lø Lø as well. So Laura's got 2 names on the go. Starseed Lø Lø, it's like her show name. So if you're looking for her music specifically, Starseed Lø Lø, and the author name is her name, Laura Ferguson. And I did put in the comments, if you look, we've got lots of folks in the comments. I will get to you at the top of the comments right here. Laura's master link, one link to rule them all. You can find Laura on Spotify, Twitter, everything, YouTube. And of course, the audio book right here is a nice link. So this time for real, let me bring Laura to the stage. There we are. Laura Ferguson, how are you doing today? It's good to see you. I love your background. You look great.
Thank you. I'm good, Gina. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I have all kinds of thoughts swimming in my head, and I'm already getting ahead of myself like I tend to do. let's just have a little look at the chat here. We've got Michael Kopp talking in. Michael, if your ears were burning, we were just highlighting that Laura is a frequent guest on your show. We've also got Missy. Hi, Missy. Thanks for joining us today. And Michael's commenting that you've always got amazing backgrounds. So, so Missy, wow, there's so much to say. Your book. Let's talk about that. Tell us everything. Tell us what inspired you to write this book. And I'd love to know about the image. I think that this is just such a really beautiful image. I love black and gold personally. Let's hear from you. Tell us about this process.
Thank you, Gina. And thank you for having me on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So The Entanglement is my first adult novel, or novelette rather. It's only 12,000 words, relatively short. And it's in the sci-fi category, basically about the Atlantean destruction. And it's parallel lives of mine. One as an ET on Mars, and then one as a human in Atlantis.
Yes, and when I was reading your book, listening to the audio, which was a nice change from reading, by the way, I really felt like I was there. Like I felt like this book could easily be transformed into a movie, because your voice would just come in with the storyline, and it was like I was with you walking around. I'd see like explosions here and there in some scenes. There were other scenes where people were injured and you were helping out. Visions, like there was some kind of mud band-aid that you made, just seemingly on the spot, like you had a way of knowing. And there was a lot of heartfelt emotion going on without getting caught up in the emotion. You could still tell the story without like bawling your eyes out, but you could tell that the character would fall asleep crying, wondering like, what are the next steps and how do I move on? And there was lots of inferring because you didn't say those things, but the listener was able to infer. And for me, that's really powerful when an author can express themselves and not say everything and just let the readers, listeners piece together that information. And so sometimes it was confusing initially because I wasn't sure who was who in the book, but then as you listen to it, you make these connections that you're having dreams, you're slipping in and out of consciousness. The people in your dreams also seem to be having their own dreams, but somehow it does come together. And there was a relationship with the general, and then there was a little bit of a passionate, steamy scene with you and the general at the end of the story, which, you know, passion aside, it just really reinforced like, now what? Like this dream is over. And then the way the story ends entirely is, it's like a feeling like you're dead now, like the dream is over and what's the next steps? And the higher self chimes in, this message that you get. And so as the reader, I felt like, okay, am I dreaming this message from the higher self? Am I deceased now, crossing over? I am the higher self. Like all this omnipresent kind of thinking was going on. And then the higher self leaves it to you, the listener, to be empowered with the next steps in your life, and that it's up to you to hone in on this. And so, I mean, a simple hour and a half of my time really got the wheels turning in my brain. I love thinking about thinking. And when I asked Laura for something to read today, was it a coincidence? I don't think so. She sent me some passages from the higher self, and I was like, there you go. Right. So, wow. I took some notes too, but what are your thoughts about anything that I said, Laura?
You said a lot, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you giving me a detailed book review right now. That's exactly what I want the readers to feel, like they're there, immersed in an experience, because they have lives themselves. You know, we call them past, we call them future, and everything is actually now in the here and now moment. Those are just different perspectives. And so anybody can feel this, anybody can do this, and we all do. This is nothing unique or special. And I'm glad that you said it's like an immersion experience, because I screen wrote it as well. So source willing, it'll be a movie one day.
Yes, and I can't wait to celebrate when that does transform into a movie, because it's something that everybody can relate to. It's not just a one-off experience unique to you, and everybody's going through all of these emotions. And I was curious and interested. Some of the main characters, are those a reflection of people in this world, or were they completely made up? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, those are all reflections of myself or someone in this current life. So I'm glad you caught on to that, because that's a part of, interweaving it all together, and reasons why we feel, like close to certain people in our life is because we're with them, and other experiences as well.
And what was interesting too was you have a background, you're a veteran, and that was very apparent in the book, because even though it was a state of survival going on, like there's fighting and people are getting injured, there was still a level of respect and people taking the time to introduce each other, to do the handshake thing. And I thought, I don't know if that was intentional or if you noticed that you did that, but I thought it was powerful, because even in the dream world, there needs to be healthy boundaries. And we can talk about how we're spirits embodying a temple, a biological one. But you know what? Like when it comes to culture, we have a culture here on this planet, in North America specifically, where we do things like shake hands to show respect. And sometimes I got a vibe in your book that you had to be masculine, even though you were presented as feminine, that there was still a masculine part of you. And so I was going to ask you, like, when you were writing your book, did you feel kind of caught up, like you wanted to be the feminine, you wanted to express the feminine expression, but then you had to fall back on these protector provider themes of masculine? I felt like that protective provider theme was very strong. Did you intend that?
Yes, because we all have masculine, we all have feminine. And in this life, I'm pretty balanced with both, because I can go put my boots on. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, 2000 to 2006, be that warrior. And then I'm also the mother and the feminine, divine feminine. And so I'm glad you picked up on that. And not just because one of the lives was a masculine and one of the lives was a feminine.
Interesting. And when I was reading the book, I don't remember offhand, I'm sure it was there. But your role in the book, like, it was clear to me you were part of a leadership, but also you had to work as a group. You couldn't just tell people what to do or whatever. Like there was like a sense of comfort that that was all figured out, and you just needed to get from point A to point B. And each chapter was about that. Here's what's going on. I'm getting from point A to point B. But sometimes it can be hard when there's absolutely no direction. And sometimes we can feel a sense of being lost. But I got the impression when I was listening to the audio that you had a lot of confidence and conviction in the present moment. And that was the focus, every single present moment. You weren't going to worry about later on. And this business of the general kept coming up, like I knew there was something passionate going on, right? And then at the end, there's like a little makeout scene. But this business of humanity, I guess, is what I'm trying to express, kept coming through. And I like that, because these kind of books tend to get caught up too much in fantasy that we can't really dial it back and relate to it. And I found your book to be very relatable because it kept bringing back the humanity piece. Now, I tend to throw a lot at my guests. I also tend to think out loud. So if I've lost you, that's very normal. But do you have any comments about what I said about this humanity piece? And then I took notes on my cell phone that I want to read too.
Yes. So the sum of the parts equal the whole. And I have a master's of art in organizational leadership. So when you are a leader, you are both a follower and a leader, because we're in duality. We get to be the sum of the part and the whole. We get to be an individual and a collective. And you're right. And without the team, we can't be a whole. So that's why I did it that way, to honor
And it was
the
really
collective
heartfelt.
and individual.
Oh, sorry. There was an overlap. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
It's okay.
I felt the humanity piece when people were dying and got injured, and you didn't spend a lot of time talking about those scenes. You just talked about it enough that it got the idea, and the movie will take care of that. Like, I mean, that's what I mean. Like when I feel like I was walking around with you. But when it comes to community and working as a collective, like any tribe, when you're down a member, the whole community feels that. And um, you didn't say it, again, the reader listener has to infer, but that warrior woman aspect was very apparent. You had to have your tough face on, if you will, and think objectively and in survival mode, like the part where you made this mud band-aid, like it was just on the spot, you did it, ways of knowing. But then there was always that moment where you were alone and it was nighttime and it was time to go to bed, and you needed to put the discipline first, because if the biological one you are isn't okay, then spirit can't do its work and you're not going to be of any value to your collective to help out, right? And so it was like somewhat emotional just to force yourself to have that discipline to go to sleep and to honor yourself, having those reflective thoughts, and that if you needed to cry into your pillow or whatever, then so be it. And a lot of soldiers hide that kind of stuff, right? But they need that time to self-regulate. And so I bet any veterans out there who are also reflecting on their careers and whatnot, reading, listening to this book, would definitely relate to that humanity piece where you're just alone digesting your thoughts and having that gift of grace to just have that time alone with no judgment, expressing yourself. Yeah, it was really powerful to me. So is there going to be a part 2 to this book? Because the way it ended, it was like, I don't know, what are the next steps and what happens to the general? And are you going to remanifest? And I want to see more of the general theme. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. The Orion Wars is going to be part 2. I haven't started writing it yet because I'm doing more screenwriting, but it's coming.
And each chapter, the way the book is written is you can listen to it beginning, middle, end. But if you look at the chapter titles, you can totally just scroll ahead and make sense of the chapter for what it is, which makes me feel excited about this being transformed into a movie or even a miniseries or whatever, because you can still get the gist of what the story is about, you know? And so to me, that's very powerful. Tell us a little bit about how this image came to be. Did you design this, or how did this come to be?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because I wanted to make sure that you saw the attachment with all of the illustrations with the book. Did you see the illustrations?
I just saw these attachments here, which I was going to show later.
Okay.
There wasn't any more cartoony. No, I must have missed it. Sorry.
Okay. Because there's like 16 illustrations, I think.
Oh, geez.
And
Okay,
when you go to the Spotify book link, I think it's like a tab that says extras, and it has all the illustrations there. I didn't do them. My illustrator, Sangamitra Dasgupta, does them, and she is in India. She speaks English very well, and she helps me format the book. She did the cover here. We have the little award thing there for winning the BookFest award, and the little audiobook stamp, because it's an audiobook now and we're actually formatting the ebook. But I know the audiobook is really easy for people just to listen to, whenever. It's only an hour and a half long, which is considered a shorter novel. And so that's why I wanted to get the audiobook out. And I do share it for free if you leave a review on Spotify. So thank you for listening, and I'll shoot you the link for the illustrations later so you can look at them, because there's a bunch of cool like aliens, like Mantis and the cat bean, the blue Lyrian on Mars, another of Luna, who you see right here. She's our main female. And then it'll kind of tie it together a little more with the visuals.
When I listen to the audio, I listen to it on my phone. So I probably just neglected not being user familiarity with it, as I will definitely go back. I would have uploaded those on here, but whatever. So that's a good lesson for everybody. When you're listening to the Spotify, go and investigate all those links. I really love the earrings in this picture. I love the chandelier look. And again, just the black and gold. So what did I write down here? I wrote down my little comments when I was thinking about it. So the mud type bandage, that really got my attention. I made a note of that. Consciousness containers. Okay, so I think, if my understanding is correct, a consciousness container in your book is like all my thoughts, feelings, opinions. It all goes into literally like a water bottle, a container. And you can take that container and plug it in to anything, into another person. But let's say I die, then you would take that consciousness container and bury it somewhere safe for me, or something like that. The consciousness containers kept coming up. Like, it seemed like there was a priority to protect consciousness containers. Can you clarify what a conscious container is? And then tell us a little bit about how this unfolds in your book.
A consciousness container is merely our body, our experience in a body, having a body, with our life force flowing through a body. That's all it really is. Fancy word for a body.
Thank you for clarifying, because I don't remember the name of the person, but somewhere in the book, it seemed like somebody had died and you needed to bury the consciousness container. But what that meant is you needed to bury the body. So, okay, cool. Okay. What else did I write here? It definitely feels like a movie vibe, and I felt like I was getting glimpses of different places and spaces. You visit different planets. People can check out the chapter titles for that. And there was a focus on healing crystals. Crystals kept coming up too. Like, it just seemed like there was like a double storyline. Like, you had this mission, but you also had a job or something where you worked with crystals. And it was like you couldn't do your job because you were pulled away to go on these missions. And I got the impression, I don't know if you clarified this in the book or if it was just me thinking away, but it was like crystals can be used for everything, not just healing, but it can be used for food. It can be used for medicine, like actual, like rub it on your skin medicine, not just sound healing. And it can be used as batteries or anything, because crystals, every single piece of sand has its own energy in it. And there was also, like, instead of sending emails, folks in your book would send a telepathic communication, and it was like this energy went out. And I thought that was really awesome. And you have an amazing reader's voice. It was nice and peaceful, bassy sounding, relaxing. And I thought it seemed like there was a lot of fighting with the reptilians. The reptilians kept coming up, and it seemed like it wasn't just you and your crew. It was like other folks you were encountering. Everything kept coming back to these reptilians, and the reptilians, they're not interested in changing. They're not there on their journey. And they seem to be really immature. I was quick to label them as assholes, but I thought, you know what? I feel like they're so immature that forgive them for they do not know. Like they really genuinely, it's like they're not there on their journey. They're not trying to be rude. It's just that's where they're at developmentally. And an emphasis on them being super immature is what I noted. And how that's frustrating because even in this real waking world, we have people like that in our lives that just they're not there yet. They're not interested in changing their ways. And it reminded me of narcissism. I don't remember if you used that word in your book or not. And so I was wondering, can you tell us a little bit about the reptilians and why are they such a problem in your book? Like why it's just this is just the way they are and that's it. Tell us a little bit more.
Yes. So the reptilians, at least in the metaphysical spiritual community, are pretty much known as the bad guys. It's really true in like more so like the Orion Wars and specific events. However, they are a very small percentage and a very small faction of the actual Alpha Draconians, Orions. We have reptilians that are from Gaia, of Gaia, fourth, fifth dimensional beings, even higher. And so it was kind of an introduction, waylaying, if that's a word, into the Orion Wars, because they are the ultimate bad guys. You know, a lot of times the community doesn't talk about the arachnids, doesn't talk about predators, you know, other kinds of extraterrestrial energies and physical extraterrestrials. It's more so just the reptilians are the bad guys. And I have connections to the reptilians. And so it's more of an introduction and segue into the Orion Wars, because we're talking like 1 or 2 million years ago in our experience of time. And so that's really the deal with the reptilians. In my perspective of the Atlantean destruction, they play that big role and are a big part of that. All perspectives are valid. So you, as your own portal and your own perspective, you might have a different experience. That's just mine, and just one of infinite amounts of experiences. As far as the crystals do have piezoelectronic energy, which is why we use crystal quartz in electronics. And crystals can store terabytes of information, such as the crystal skulls, which there are 13. They are real, the crystal skulls. Just because we have lost this technology that we had around the Atlantean times, connecting the crystal highways, pyramids, and whatnot does not mean that we never had it. You know, free energy is found in free. It animates us. It is a creation. And we will have it again in the future.
That was a great answer. When I think about the reptilians on a very basic literal level, I think about conscious evolution. And I think about reptilians literally like snakes, alligators, having a reptilian brain where it's very survival based. Whereas the animal is considered the next level up of consciousness, where we start having feelings, and decisions we make are not so survival based, they're feelings based. And I find this really powerful. But I was wondering, we're going to start let me share a link here. I would be honored if you started channeling for us, but just before we do, I want to just sorry, I'm trying to be cool with StreamYard here and put things in the comments while talking. So okay, we got a link here from Laura. Okay, it won't let me put the link in the public chat, but that other link is there, everybody. Make sure you click on the link that is there. Julia is commenting, I have memories of Orion Wars, I think. What wisdom do you have to somebody like Julia? Like, how can she shift from thinking to knowing? Like, is this an Orion War memory? Is there a way to like know for certain?
Yeah. Get hypnotized. That's
Get
what I'm saying.
hypnotized.
I got QHHT hypnosis, and it just poured out. It comes from you. You're not trusting someone else giving you a reading, although I do that too, because I can't be objective with myself. But
Yes.
get hypnotized, and you'll see what.
And Michael is commenting, he too feels that way, and feeling excited to remember more. Michael is commenting, and Julia saying, that's cool, but I held a lot of collective rage from the wars. I've processed a lot of. Yeah, it seems like once you open up this can of worms, it definitely goes on. But Laura, what time is the maximum? Because I know we both can get caught up in timelessness, and at some point I need to make sure that I end the show on time because you have to go somewhere after. What time are we going to call it quits today?
1:30. I can do 30 minutes. Normally I do 30 minutes of channeling. What do you think? Or that's 2:30 for you?
Okay, so at 2:20ish, I'll just remind us that we've got 10 minutes left. Okay, and Michael is commenting, Laura helped change how I see the reptilians, alpha, Dracos, the draconians. Yeah, and that's really great. And Starseed Lø Lø just commenting there. Thank you in the chat. So let me read a little bit from the book. This is chapter 26, Conversation with Your Higher Self. And I'm just going to read the gold parts here. We are all energy. We are all collective consciousness in a consciousness container, experiencing more of ourselves from a unique perspective point. What we find is more of ourselves. Everything is here and now. Our purpose is to be ourselves and to enjoy doing it. I love how that one ends. And this one here is really powerful too. Power and simplicity. I'm all about simplicity. All experiences are valid. All perspectives are valid. We focus on what we do want by acting on our highest passions. Be true to yourself. And I love this picture of you here because it's just like an everyday, authentic picture of yourself. This kind of wording never gets old to me, and I feel like people out there can't hear it enough. Be true to yourself. Focus on what you want. Don't just think about it, but act on it. All perspectives are valid. So even folks like, the reptilians who annoy us and that kind of stuff, like, what are those lessons that we have to learn and take away, as frustrating as they can be? So I really thank you for sharing that. Here's the image here of the book. So if anybody has a question for Laura, just put it in the chat. Otherwise, Laura, I'm not sure how to turn it over to you now. Do I just be quiet and let you channel away? How can I best support you in this process?
Well, you're going to channel with me interactively by asking whatever questions come up from your higher self.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay. Oh, you know what? Okay.
And eyes are going to be closed. So if anyone has any questions, just let me know.
Okay. So already I've got tons of questions flooding in. Questions I'd like to know about me personally, but let's make it about the collective. This full moon in particular seems to be really challenging, not just for myself, but for a lot of people. And I feel like the last new moon was really deep introspection. And I'm wondering if any of your guides would like to speak to any tips or tricks, any kind of information coming in that about this full moon. This full moon is Friday, and this full moon is important to me because it's setting the tone now for the summer. Like, spring is coming to an end, and anything that comes through, I'm interested. And I'll mute myself so there's no overlap.
Okay. I'm going to do a short sound healing with tuning fork, and I'll get into it.
Okay.
The reptilians and grays, collective energy are here. The full moon cycle is part of a 28-day, 360-day-a-year calendar cycle. This is more accurate than the 365-day-a-year cycle and the moon cycle, not just with the divine feminine woman and her cycle of 28 days. It also coincides with the tides of the ocean and the whole energy of the planet. Therefore, the seasonal astrology is not as accurate as the sidereal true astrology. Do you have any specific questions about the full moon?
Yes. Regarding this full moon and the seasonal cycles, what advice do you have to help us smooth over this transition? I feel like the
Transition
moon's
into the new earth?
intensity is too bright.
Transition into the new earth in the fourth dimension?
Transitioning into the summer and next steps in the lives of the collective listening.
Energy always changes. Energy never stops moving. Therefore, you are changing moment to moment to moment in the reality which you prefer, and you are picking with your frequency.
Okay, thank you for that. And myself personally, I will be more mindful about my thoughts because some thoughts I desire to manifest and some thoughts I don't desire to manifest. And so thank you for that reminder. Julia is wondering, what is Julia's role, Julia Anchorhaven, with the Zeta Grays?
We get that she's a gatekeeper in a reptilian energy consciousness container, as Laura says. They work together, and her keeping helps anchor the energy in helping their mission.
And
Anything
if somebody
further?
like Julia has reptilian energy, uh, could that be a reason why she could be butting heads with people or having experiences that are not unfolding because there's assumptions that she's a bad guy or something like that? Are there any blind spots for Julia knowing that she has this reptilian energy? Because I think about the comments that I made about reptilians earlier, and I think about Julia and her beautiful energy and all that she has to share. Is it possible that reptilians, maybe they are changing their ways through folks like Julia's energy, helping to alchemize and anchor this? Very interested.
She is a benevolent of the reptoid energy. She has had experiences on the malevolent. However, in this present moment, which is all that there really is no past or future. Those are just mere perspectives. However, she is benevolent. And yes, others do pick up on her energy. This is one of her stronger ties, although we all have infinite ties to any kind of ETs, as we call them, or people, as we call them, of ones that you don't even know of exist yet. And yes, people do pick up on this energy because it is a very strong energy, although she's in the benevolent at this time. And they are confused and honestly do not know how to handle her energy and therefore reflect back sometimes something which she does not prefer. Remember, all energy is neutral to neutral positive in the universe. That is just physics. However, you define, even though everything is for your positive and greatest good, you define it. It does not matter what happens. It matters what you do with it.
Thank you for that. And Julia is commenting, thank you as well. Michael also has a question. He's asking, what message do they have to share about the moon with Gina, Michael, Julia, and Laura?
As you all know and are probably aware of, the moon was placed there, the SSP secret space programs, as you call it, although it has other names, other true names, which they call it something else on this dark budget agenda from the cabal, has experienced it, however, not through what you would call a rocket that can even go 238,000 miles or even half of that in technology, especially back in the late 60s or 70s. Why there is no video of, they say, this Artemis mission, and which is why we have not seen other moon missions. No, it is not that the moon is a hologram, as others say. It is that it has been placed there, and forces such as the SSP use jump room portals technology to go there, and therefore will not show it to the masses, at least true footage.
That's very interesting. Thank you for that. I also wonder a question about me, actually. In my dream life, I'm often displayed as a robot and I'm on a ship, and I seem to be a neutral party, but I'm freaking people out because I've become sentient and I don't understand good guy, bad guy anymore. And so I'm wondering, can you tell me any secrets or information about others on the ship and how I can best help them and bring more calm, peace, ease? Because I was programmed by the bad guys, if you will, but I'm neutral now, and I don't mean to, but I'm scaring people. How can I change that?
Change your definition and how you communicate with them. We feel you do this telepathically. However, you might have to do it in a stronger form, which means vocally or in an audio form or written form using symbols. And you need to explain to them that you are a sentient being. A consciousness container does not have to be, as you say, an organic body. It can be any container, including, as you say, a robot or AI. After you reiterate and explain this, that you are a sentient being that is on the neutral side or neutral to positive side and no longer part of the programming, in essence, like a soul who was awakened, however, as a sentient AI, then they will understand you better.
Okay, thank you for that. And another question about myself. It's about my dream life and the real world. So in the real world, there's a man that commented that there's a Navy and they're not the guns type. And in my dream life, it's not a coincidence. I work for a Navy that is not the guns type. And I feel like not the guns type means emotions are being weaponized. And I was hopeful you could provide insight to that, or provide me with clarity. Who can I connect to in this 3D reality to help bridge this so I can fulfill my role better?
Connect with the Syrian energy, because the Navy has to do with water. And as you know, water has to do with emotion. Do you know anyone who has a lot of Syrian energy, maybe a female?
Okay, that's helpful because they do have a close connection with the air and the water. Julia's asking a good question here. What is the significance of the heads at Easter Island?
The heads, the moa, they signify change. They signify the new age, the new world. They also signify the mixture of cultures and species because it was open at that time to see different beings, Earth reptilians, non-Earth reptilians, grays, various hybrids, which is why the moa look different than a regular human. They are hybrids.
And these hybrids that they represent at Easter Island, were those hybrids that existed here on planet Earth, or did those hybrids come from the stars?
Both laboratories, thousands of years ago, up to 200,000 years ago, to roughly 11,500 during the Atlantean destruction. As they say, in the Garden of Eden was actually in the Middle East, where one of the main laboratories was. The stars came. Anunnaki actually represent what are now Lyrians, Pleiadians, and such. Therefore, that is not a race as it was back then. However, the stars mixed as part of the all and the source with Gaians to include those Moa and those Easter Islanders.
When you mention laboratories, I get the impression this wasn't like a healing center. It was like a genetically modified experimentation. Am I correct, or can you tell us a bit about why they were in laboratories at all?
It started with the hybrid agenda with the Greys. The Greys are actually humans, not ETs, in another dimension, parallel dimension. And actually, the Greys hybrid agenda is still going on, which is why some people say they get taken, and actually their soul has agreed to this. So in essence, it's not being taken. They just don't remember. And the hybridization agenda has helped to extend the species of the Greys because the Greys removed their ability to feel any emotion, which also removed their ability to consummate and reproduce. There's other ET races that also are, as you say, in on it, such as the mantis beings, factions of reptilians, and many more, Arcturians, too many to mention. Therefore, the DNA has been preserved through all lineages and all planet iterations in perpetuity and infinite universes of universes. And this is what a Homo sapien is, a mixture and a blend, which is why you can feel these connections, is because it is in your DNA, which is literally the code of your quantum computer of your body.
Follow-up question, and then there's two more questions in the chat. My follow-up question is, the soul consented to this, you were saying, but the Greys don't have feelings. But I feel like when we're talking about conscious evolution, we really don't have a choice but to have a body so that we can process feelings. And so I'm wondering, like, are the Greys basically considered a computer? They're not really folk,
Yes,
so to
and this is
speak.
coming from the Greys. Please finish.
Oh, thank you, Grace, for chiming in. I'm very curious about you because I understand how important feelings are, and each one of us is a Mother Earth in our own right, beaver dams in our own right, story species, sharing story medicine. And as a Gray, seems like you can't really get in on the story medicine because you lack that connection. There's a disconnection between feelings and the body. And so I'm wondering, like, are you being used by another species so that they can experiment on you basically to access our body and process your feelings? Part of me feels concerned for the Greys that they're just going to be used and exterminated. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
No. A consciousness does not need a body, nor a container, nor even feelings. When you are on the other side, as you say, dying, what do you think you are? Just pure, beautiful, perfect energy. It just is. It doesn't feel. It just is. Just like the universe, universal consciousness. The experience of emotions is real. Physicality is not. In higher dimensions, normally from the 5th dimension on up, bodies are optional, even the upper 4th dimension. There are slipwalkers, such as Sasquatch and Chupacabra and skunk apes and whatnot. These are actually some of the original humans. Not too many, but some that were not hybridized. And they can slipwalk between dimensions. That's because they're in the upper 4th dimension or higher, which is close and can be part of the astral plane of when you no longer have a body and have crossed over to the other side. Our experience is much like this. Just like you are a shapeshifter and your energy shifts to the other side and is infinite, so is ours. We have technology to move our consciousness into anything that we wish, even a non-organic. And just like you have this energy as a cyborg or AI, we are much like this. We do not need to eat. We do not need to sleep. And this is a normal function within higher 4th dimension on up.
That's very fascinating, and I thank you for that, because sometimes I worry about the Greys because I worry about humanity and this business of hybridization, because I feel like there's a species out there that is extinct, respectfully, but they don't want to be, so they keep inserting their DNA into our DNA to clone and hybridize. And there's a theory that we're just going to be weeded out, if you will, eventually. And so I appreciate that perspective. All perspectives are valid. And I've never chatted with a Grey before, at least to my knowledge. So I thank you for that. There's a message here from Michael. Are we going to bring the moon back under light and spread out in our galactic birthright soon?
The moon under light, meaning telling the masses that it was placed there after the Atlantean destruction, Michael? We have already told people via her book. She has not gotten much into the moon. She will get more into it in her second book in the Orion Wars. However, this is all over Gaia TV, and it's out there that the moon was placed there as a result of the Atlantean destruction and the Tiamat water planet, which was acting like an anchor to the planet to help with the magnetism. Something needed to stabilize this version of Gaia with the oceans and tides. Is that what you're talking about, Michael?
I'm just waiting for Michael to clarify. He's clarifying general knowledge to the masses.
That's what we are doing right now.
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, the moon was placed here, like it was installed here, basically, so it could have a reaction with the tides and the cycles to shift our planet, creating new pollinators, for example, nighttime pollinators that wouldn't have existed before, shifting the alchemy. But the moon is now tidal locked with us. So the moon is stuck with us, so to speak. If the moon were to leave us, the whole solar system would basically fall apart. Do you feel the moon is a spaceship? Is it a spaceship? Or is it, like, are there people in there?
There are some bases there, which is why when they used a portal to go to the moon years ago, on those missions is that the Apollo missions, is their face looked shocked because they were told their families would be hurt. Lack of a better word, we won't say what. You can fill in the blanks. We're not on Rumble, don't want to be taken down on other platforms. However, they were told their families would be unalived as well as themselves if they disclosed seeing any of these quote unquote alien bases, because there are multiple races that were involved in placing the moon and do use it to stop over for things such as refueling and other things. And so the moon is a very big subject. Yes, it is title locked, and Laura has spoken about it in her Sacred Geometry Kids book, because she has done statistics by hand for a living as a retired accountant, and she knows it's almost statistically impossible for the moon to both be 400 times in ratio less than the sun and exactly 400 times also in distance to have a perfect eclipse, which is why no other moon out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of moons on just Saturn and Jupiter alone do not have an eclipse. That is another clue that it was placed there. It's also 4 miles or less with an accuracy of being perfectly round, which is almost statistically impossible. And the list goes on and on and on. It's also roughly 2,100 miles across, and it coincides with perfect geometry of pi and all kinds of angles and the 360-day calendar year. The list goes on. The clues are there is that it was placed there. Yes, it is organic. However, it was placed due to all of those reasons you mentioned.
That's a phenomenal answer. Thank you. And we have a few minutes left here. Julia's wondering, she's commenting, I recently connected to versions of me on a clone colony. Can you confirm the location of the green planet, please?
We get Saturn. You have a lot of connections to Saturn. Please look into Saturn and Saturn's moons. Just because in this dimension, you cannot see that the moon of Titan, for example, is barren. That does not mean that in higher dimensions, it is not barren.
That's a great answer, Julia. I hope you got your answer there. And you know, folks on the moon, when you were speaking, it reminded me of like a mafia mentality. Like, we're not going to hurt you, we're going to hurt the ones you love. And to me, that's very controlling. And we just have a couple minutes here left. No time for any more questions, just to share some comments here. Julia was commenting SSP bases on the moon, and Michael's agreeing yes. And any final messages or thoughts, final minute here?
We love you all. Remember that I was listening right now as part of a hybrid agenda, because you are us and we are you. Whether we have emotions or not, we feel through you, because we are all part of this, is what you call matrix. We are all universal energy. We are all made of the same stuff, the same particles, and the same energy. The higher the dimension, the easier it is to experience the human experience, even without being a human. Therefore, we love all of you as ourselves. You are doing the best that you can by doing your highest passion in every moment and keeping your frequency high in that creation mode, period. We love you very much.
That was a really great way to end things, with a message of we love you and that sense of unconditional, and we're all connected. Thank you so much for channeling with us, the Grays and anyone else who came in. I really appreciate it, and I welcome you into my dream life. I know you're already there, and it's really nice to have this connection too with Laura Ferguson, Starseed Lø Lø. But Laura Ferguson needs to come back to us now, because it's 2:29 my time, which means it's 1:29 p.m. for her. And it was really nice to connect with the Grays. While Laura's transitioning out there, I'll show you her book here again. First time guest right here, Story Species, Story Medicine. Laura's got all kinds of story medicine to share. She channels like this regularly on Michael's show, and I forget the name of the other person, but basically regularly you can find Laura, and of course her audio here, it's absolutely free. The link is in the description. This link here also in the description and the chat. One link to rule them all. So click on this link, folks. Purchase her book. Tomorrow's going to be a big day celebration. Michael's commenting, thank you for sharing with us, Grace. Love to you all as well. And Julia as well. Awesome. Thank you. And Michael's just reiterating today the show at 3 p.m. So, Laura, thank you so much for being on Story Species, Story Medicine, for sharing your medicine. And behind the scenes, Laura and I, we've been in a lot of communication about the upcoming conference, which Laura is speaking to. And so if anybody has any more questions for Laura, make sure you click on the link, show your support, visit all her sites, like them, and definitely check out those pictures that she was talking about. I know I'm looking forward to checking them out as well. And Laura, any final thoughts before I let you go? I feel like we're just getting started. Time really flew by here for me today.
Yeah. It's like we go in that zone, in that void, and then we kind of get lost. One more thing they wanted me to tell you: you have big Lyrian connections, Gina, and you've probably already looked into that. They say yes. They're like, but they want me to tell you again that you have big Lyrian cat DNA connections and energy, and that you love cats. So anyway, hopefully that means something to you. And until we meet again here on your show, and thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
I'll just remove you here from the stage. I know you need to get going. Good luck with running your errands there. That's Laura, she's not writing books. She's recording an audio, making music, running errands, going here, going there. And that's very typical of somebody who is living their life to the fullest. And I'm always interested after somebody channels, like, how did that resonate with you? Tell me everything. So even if you catch this show in 40 years from now, I love reading the comments. Keep them coming. Like Julia got information today about a specific planet, so I'm wondering how that's going to inspire Julia's thinking. Michael also got some information too. Michael saying, please allow Laura to return. You can bet she's going to be a returning guest on Story Species, Story Medicine, Extra Strength. And we've got lots to celebrate about Laura. Laura is creating a song for Story Species, Story Medicine. It's going to be played at our conference. The intention is, this conference, it might have to wait till September, but we're hoping it's going to be a June thing. And you know what? When you follow me absolutely free on Buy Me a Coffee or tune in to this kind of stuff, we get in on those kind of details, right? So your soul tribe awaits you, the Dragon Dreams Soul Tribe Collective. And we're honored to have folks like Laura here today. And, that message about the Lyrians, wow, that really spoke to me. Because, Jaguar energy is always very strong with me. Jaguar is a cat, of course. But, Jaguar can be a bit scary and intensive. And honestly, I don't think Jaguar knows how powerful Jaguar is. Okay, there, I said it. Myself, on the literal level, Jaguars, the females hang out by the water. The masculines, the males, they're far away from home. And that's me now on my spirit journey. I'm with the masculine Jaguars, and they're quite the big boys, if you will. And so I do feel like there's some kind of connection to family there. So Michael's commenting, great show, and way to go. Keep up the greatness. You all are. And keep sharing with us. And you can find me here Tuesdays at 1:30. If you would like to be a guest on Story Species, Story Medicine, get in touch with yours truly, me, Gina Virginia Casella. This show is targeted for published authors, but as you saw in a previous show with Missy Hill, she's not published yet. Yet is the positive growth mindset, right? So this show could be your very stepping stone. And maybe you don't write books. Maybe you dance. And your dance is your communication. I would absolutely love to see it. And so I'd like to wish everybody a phenomenal day. Thank you so much for tuning in today on Story Species, Story Medicine. When you share your story, you share your medicine. And when you receive a story, you receive medicine. One of the best prescriptions out there, and it's absolutely free. Thank you so much, everybody. Gina Virginia Casella, peacing out, and I'll see you next time.